All right. Well, welcome to today's webinar. We are going to talk about just sales tools. We're going to talk about sales tools. This is way more than a sales tool that we're going to talk about here today. But we're going to talk about interior measurement technology. If you guys haven't heard of the interior measurement tools that are out there, there's plenty of interior measurement tools. You can even measure stuff internally on your phone, all that kind of stuff with, some dots and stuff there. But this technology is kind of next level here. And I want to walk you through that. Bill and Guy, you can explain this way better than I can. But we're going to talk about that today. So my goal is always that you take a few nuggets away from this in your sales, your marketing, your production department. You'll walk away with something. But my name is Sean Conners. I'm with Contractor Appointments. We do performance lead gen in the space, all on a revenue share basis. But I've got Guy and Bill here from One Click Contractor. If you guys don't mind introducing yourselves, tell us a little about yourself and your kind of where you sit in the industry, how you got where you're at. So Guy, I'll let you go first. You're left to right on my screen.
Oh yeah, sure. Guy Kopperud. Like I said, I live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Been with One Click Contractor a couple of years now. Was in the contracting space for a long time. I always say I remember when the big deal when the pneumatic nail guns came out, and we were still bragging about hand nailing as if that was some kind of noble thing. But did a lot of work in the insurance space, data space for some of the software providers for construction companies. So yeah, been in the industry a long time.
That's great. Yeah, Bill Phillips from One Click Contractor, obviously been with One Click now for 3 years. Like Guy, I've been a contractor for about 15 years of my career. Worked for manufacturing in sales, marketing, and customer service for 15 years for Black & Decker companies, and probably now, about 6-7 years in different tech businesses. So, trying to take what I've learned in both of those positions and expand it into making the best tech we can to help our contractors be successful.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I love about One Click is actually, I remember reaching out to you guys initially back in 2020, like beginning of pandemic, being like, everyone was going, holy crap, how do we sell online? And you guys, before pandemic, were like, well, you can sell virtually. Here's the tools to do it. And that's where the thing's going. You guys are always ahead of the curve technology wise. So I appreciated that in our conversations over the years with you guys as well. But let's talk on just, let's talk even a step back here of measurement technology as a whole and that effect on the industry. There's the Eagle Views who did roof measurements, and you can do these amazing roof measurements without having to get up on a roof. And then the hovers where you can get the exterior measurements through just a few pictures, all of that. And you guys have been a part of seeing those things evolve over the industry wise. But so maybe speak on those a little bit and their impact on the industry. But I'd also love to hear like what the impact you see of interior measurement technology before we get into like, we'll actually demo this stuff. We'll see how the impact of this actually can be. But I'm curious from your own words, the impact of each one of those to businesses, and then the interior measurement side, how that you see that impacting.
Sure, I can jump in first. I was actually a contractor back when Eagle View and Hover were coming to market. Another company called GeoEstimator was competing with Eagle View at the time. And in fact, our founder was the founder of GeoEstimator. So strong tech background within the home improvement industry. So used both of those. And I think the beginning stages were, can you get a better measurement from aerial photography or satellite or whatever you're using versus somebody pulling a tape. And I think that was proved over time as they continued to dial in the technology, and it got to the point where the variation on the Eagle Views were less than the variation from humans. And so I think that was really kind of what spurred the adoption, and then also a safety issue, not having people climb on a roof to be able to do measures. And then shortly thereafter, Hover came out, and really cool technology, produced a 3D model of your house from about 8 pictures and being able to extract that information. And again, for anyone that's measured siding or had salespeople measure windows, you're going to get about the same or better accuracy from technology than you would be from a person. So I think that led to the mass adoption that we see today in those technologies on the exterior. Guy, I don't know about your view and your experience.
No, exactly. Going to the insurance side of the business, there's a lot of carriers that really don't want to see their people up on roofs. So that all, from a health and safety standpoint, that you were spot on, Bill. I look back, I started 30 some years ago in construction, and these tools that some of them we're going to talk about today. We were just talking about it earlier is how quick will people adopt an interior measurement? I think really quick, because everybody, using remote services for measurements it's pretty much native to everybody now. So we'll show you what we got. I think you guys will like it.
Yeah, well, I think I mean, I remember, EagleView was out there. It's like the cost versus the benefit of doing it. That was a huge impact too. It's like, wow, it's so expensive for that EagleView report, even if it wasn't that expensive, in today's terms, it's like, well, you just build in the cost because it's, it is the safety and the accuracy was just so great today. Yep. That was the big question. It's like, well, you still got to go up there and, before you order materials, you got to go up there and double check those measurements because you don't know it's going to be accurate. So like at that time, that technology wasn't built, but it has become like the mainstay of in residential roofing and siding and windows. You just use it on a consistent basis now as well. So and I think to your point that as the technology has improved, the accuracy is the most crucial piece to that adoption.
Right.
Especially being able to use that not only from a sales presentation, but also into production.
Well, in technology, not even from an AI perspective, Sean, but from a just raw technology of photography.
Yeah.
I've had, known the EagleView people from the beginning, and just watching them improve the camera technology that they're using to take the pictures, so they continue to get a greater resolution on the pixels, so that gives them more accuracy when they extract that data. Has been pretty incredible to watch.
Yeah, I mean, literally, Bill, you're seeing companies out there identifying hail damage and talking about roofs and just counting number of turtle vents or roof jacks or whatever. It's come a long ways. The other thing too, Sean, what we really think is a huge win for contractors is it literally expands your capable service area, because now you're not driving, you don't have 4 or 5 hours behind the steering wheel. You can it does take a little bit of getting used to selling remotely. It's not for everybody, but to even be able to get 3 or 4 bids done based off of some remote measurement, even if you still have to go visit them, your efficiency goes way up.
Yeah, I was actually just talking to a solar installer about a week ago, and I'm not going to name a bunch of names here, but there's a roofing company in the country that has multiple states. And their benefit to solar installers is they'll get them an estimate in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Because they can do a virtual measurement, and they've just covered an entire states. And it's all about where you can find installers at that point. It's like, you didn't have to sell the deal.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point. I think in today's drive-through generation, even if it's a preliminary bid or a budgetary number, the sooner you can get somebody a bid on something, whether it's flooring or interior paint, as far as the interior side goes, you have a really high probability of winning that job.
Yep. Well, I think the scarcity that we've wanted to, we got to come out there and take a look at it and all that kind of stuff. Well, if some homeowners already know that they need an estimate, I can tell you from our thousands of homeowners we deal with on a daily basis, there's a significant portion, and it's growing from a consumer demand. They go, well, can't you just measure via satellite? And I think the interior message is still to come. So
you'd be surprised how many homeowners assume that we already have the information.
Yeah.
Like we've got in some secret vault. I wish we did. But.
Don't you have the floor plans for my house? I mean,
yeah.
They're out there somewhere. We just have to find them.
Yeah, absolutely. So just like we said, I think the exterior side of things, we've all seen the impact that those exterior measurements have. I'm curious from your perspective, how are companies already, maybe examples of other companies that are already leveraging some of the interior technology to get, experience some of the same benefits?
Yeah, I can jump on that one. We've been looking at this for a while myself as well. You go back to the days of maybe a large flooring contractor or whatever doing laser measurement in the home rather than pulling the tape to be able to figure that out. Some of the large retail boxes use companies to go out and do laser measurements and floor plans and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And that's just a basic measurement to where you've got companies that you actually do use your phone and you can take pictures and create kind of a 3D model of that room. many of those require the contractor to be involved with them, to be have some expertise and knowledge about how to do it to make sure they get the best result. And so I think for the longest time, it's always been a tool for the contractor to take in the home and either speed up or increase the accuracy of what they're doing when they walk in the front door. And so I think there's been a fair amount of adoption. There's other people that use cameras, on tripods, and you can spin those, and we can name names if you want. But for the most part, it's a fairly expensive, and so the project has to be, robust enough to be able to justify that, because you always get into that cost benefit relationship, right? No matter what you do, as you said on roofing, measurements with Eagle View. At the first, it was like, oh my God, you want $40 for that? I can't afford that. I'm only closing 1 out of 3 or 1 out of 4 jobs. And so now it's the same thing. As you get some of these, and you got people going in with cameras, and it's $300, $400, $500 to be able to get a measurement. You better have a pretty big project. If you're doing a large remodel, yeah, probably it pays for itself. But I think that's where it kind of started. That's where we're at today. And then the technology we found was a next step up, we thought, because I think we wanted to find something that even the homeowner could do. And that's what kind of opened up the whole virtual thing, 100% virtual.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and we'll get into it. I don't mean to keep pushing it off here, but that is it. I think that's the beauty of this, is even hover in some ways, people have struggled to get homeowners to take these pictures. It's so the virtual selling has been they end up sending, even if they're selling virtually, they're still sending a runner out there to go take these snapshots of pictures. So it still limits you in these capacities. So I think what's cool about this is that actually homeowner, it's not dummy proof, but it is a lot more user friendly in that way. So,
very simple.
Yeah, but I think from a marketing kind of sales standpoint as well, thinking about when Eagle View first came out, I heard a lot of, from a marketing standpoint, they're like, we're going to measure we don't do, not only do we do that, get up there on your roof and double check every measurement, but here's your printout of your roof. That alone was a huge impact to a sales presentation.
Yeah. Right.
For the first time, you got you wrote out, my roof is on this paper. And it was you got an official report was helpful in the sales presentation. So
yeah, Sean, I'm glad you said that, because that I was just thinking, when you think about home inspections, before infrared cameras were on, our smartphones and things like that, they were an expensive entry level, $2,500 to get into a handheld one, or even a moisture meter. A good one's $500. So back in the day, people would always argue, well, I'm not going to pull that tool out for a $400 home inspection. And then it got to the point where, well, that was a value add. And if you're in competition with other people, I'm not justifying whether it's a good, smart business decision to make or not, but it set you apart to be able to, measure the moisture content. If there was a concern, at least put it in the document. And so I think the same thing you're going to see happening with people are going to, instead of saying, well, how much does that cost? And I got to add it on. If the economy gets challenging, people are going to look for ways to set themselves apart. And it's just the cost of doing business. So, and it is very much, I think, when we show it here, I think you'll see that it, like the hover report in Eagle View, it's pretty sexy. And I think the homeowners look at you like, wow, these guys are pros.
Yeah. One, I think the Eagle View report is become, if you have 2 roofing contractors that go in for the same estimate, you might get 2 Eagle Views, right? You're going to get a similar report or a same report, and there's no differentiation there, versus being on the cutting edge of technology, which we've talked many times in other webinars here, can help you differentiate yourself. Just because you show them a tool, or you show them a report, or you kind of offer something new, it can help kind of differentiate yourself, just because you're so much more established, or you are, you're on the cutting edge of some of this stuff here too.
Well, I think anybody that walks in with tech right now, Sean, people look at that as a cut above. Obviously, you must be skilled enough that you've integrated technology into your process, be it measurement, be it selling, be it, whatever. And the more you do that, I think it lends a level of professionalism, and I think confidence to the homeowner that you're getting kind of, a more real result. There's not somebody pulling the fat tape, as we used to talk about, and all that time trying to drive the price up a little bit. So I definitely think that, especially, as it's become so prevalent in our society that tech's everywhere, the more you walk in with pencil and pad and you're sketching drawings and stuff like that and pulling a tape versus somebody
Yep.
walking in with something already measured and a digital version of that on a, you know, on an iPad or on a computer, makes a huge difference.
Well, we talked about that in a couple webinars ago, just even some of the estimating technology that's out there and being able to have it, instead of you going back to your truck and writing up the estimate, showing them like, here's what it is, you're doing it alongside them. You know, like we put things in our Amazon cart and we go, whoa, I got $300 in that Amazon cart today. It's like, well, I put them in there and I chose those items. So therefore it's $400. If
Right.
they feel like there's more in control of that piece, you know, it can justify your price, even a higher price, because you've built it along with the salesperson, which could revolutionize the way we purchase today. I think that's just another piece why this, you know, technology can help you like make it less of a ambiguous I'm measuring or how I'm measuring or anything like that. You're actually showing them and letting them be a part of that process. So I'm curious, from an in-home selling experience, so just focusing on the sales side of things, how do you see this impacting in-home selling because I think there's still a very small portion of the home improvement population that's doing virtual sales today. I still believe that that's the direction I think homeowners will demand and require as we progress here. But I'm curious, from an in-home salesperson who shows up at the door doing a goal of doing a one-call close or trying to be able to sell windows or bath or anything like that and give a price, how will this technology disrupt that or maybe improve that that process? How will you see this changing that?
Yeah, I think so. I think it can work either way. So I think when you step back and look at, you know, what we did at One Click is that we wanted to be able to kind of go to the most difficult task at first, which is to create the opportunity to do a totally virtual sale. And in fact, that's kind of the bones of the company when it was founded, was thinking about remote sales and how that's a coming trend. It's been slow. You're right. The majority of people still want to get into the home, and I get it. I'm one of those too. I'd love to get in the home and go face to face because I think I'm better than I am on camera. But for the most part, some people on the other side, the consumer, are looking for a more virtual experience. So we started at that level, but then as you peel it back, Sean, you can see where our tool, you can use the combination of these things where you can use the technology to gather information before you go to the appointment. What that does is allows the salesperson to spend more time with the customer, face to face, talking, you know, engaging, gathering scope, gathering their wishes and all that stuff, and building the solution quicker than it does when they have to go in and measure and draw and sketch and all those things.
Yep.
The worst thing you can do as an in-home salesperson is lose the focus of the customer.
Yes.
So when you're sitting down and having to say, well, let me go work up this price and I'll be back in 15 minutes or something, they get distracted. They're now in the kitchen doing the dishes, or they're getting dinner ready, and you got to then go back and get them all the way back in and then get their attention back where you need it to be able to complete that sale. So the more we can do to take time out of, and I would call it the non-interface time with the customer, the better that sale process is going to be, and hopefully the more effective it will be. So from start to finish, gathering information remotely or before you even get to the job site, and either doing it virtually or going into the home with that information is just going to make the whole process work better.
I just think about, I just went through a kitchen remodel myself, a homemade level remodel. But every contractor we had in there, it's a weird transition between tell me about what you're looking for, and then I'm going to go take a break and measure everything. And then I'll come back and like rejoin the conversation, go away, come back. Like you could drastically change that entire sales presentation if you were able to come in with, this is what I have. I already have the measurements. I already have all those pieces. Now we're just like building your price together and building, you know, you're taking away those awkward transition points of estimates and going away to measure, period, from that entire process. So just like you said, I think I 100% agree. Like anytime you break from that, you know, that just face-to-face conversational, you know, time, like you're having to rebuild it again. You're having to, you know, it can make a lot more streamlined appointments as well.
Well, we've all been on conference calls where people are dual tasking, right? Multitasking, and you can tell they're multitasking. You're trying to get them back, and it's so hard sometimes. But I think it's interesting. We do have one client that's using this technology, and they actually stage the estimate before they go into the home. And this happens to be on kitchen refacing, and so they build the estimate in the system. So all they're doing really at the point where they walk in is just engaging with the customer. What are you doing? What's the issues you have? What are you trying to accomplish? What's your dream? What's it going to look like? And while you're doing that, you can say, well, let's make an adjustment here, adjustment there. You're doing it live. And within minutes, you can have the solution. And then you spend all the time, with the reasons why you're going to buy from me in the first place, right? My company, my story, the quality of the products we use, the quality of the installation we use, the installers, all the pieces and parts that can make that the best experience they've got. So if they can do that, again, that's kind of the pre-appointment setup, where I'm going and building all this information ahead of time. So I'm focused 100% on the customer and just really kind of fine tuning what I've come in with.
Well, I think that does two things too. Is it from a sales perspective, it like you're immediately differentiated from every other cabinet company who goes in there, kitchen remodeler who goes in there, tries to win that business. Is you're going like, well, we already did this ahead of time. So you're like already at a different level than they are.
Right.
And professionalism and trust and all those things that you already went and put that effort into it. But I would imagine, think about the set rates, the demo rates on the set appointments that you have. If they've already invested and got you these measurements back,
right,
the demo rate's going to be 100%, if not close to.
Yeah, I totally agree, Sean. We've been saying that the likelihood of a homeowner taking the time to go and do that, you're engaging them, right? They're getting into the process right out of the gates. The likelihood of them saying, yeah, I changed my mind, is to at least get you face to face with them is really rare that they would probably say, no, I don't want to do it now. So
funny part is that we always talk about, getting their attention, right? You go back to the basic sales premise, attention, interest, desire, close. Getting their attention and keeping their attention is real important. One of the things we've heard back, and a few people that have worked with this is, the customer, you have their attention because they want to see the results. What are the measurements? What's that 3D model look like? What's this? So you've already got them kind of drawn in to your solution because they've engaged in helping you put that together. So, kind of a cool emotional, psychological tie back into what you're doing.
Well, I think it's this love, almost reciprocity too. You're already doing all this for me, and I might be giving you measurements, but I'm wanting this estimate. And there's just an immediate like pre-sale, like you talk about tie downs in a sales presentation that you're trying, as you're even going around measuring. When I was learning how to sell windows, like you're trying to put in all these tie downs for your future ask for the sale. And them giving you a measurement and giving you this stuff on is a huge tie down, because there's now an anticipation for even what they're going to see on the other side. So
Sean, the other thing too, having a tool like OneClick and have the ability to go in, Bill mentioned the kitchen. If you go in and you've got your cabinet selection and the countertop, let's say you're going to do solid surface, and you can sit down with the client, you got the price. It's back in the day, we'd always say it's easier to change a finish in a brand new home than it is to add square feet. So go for the square feet and you can improve it later. So with the kitchen, it's the same thing. I could go in with a price, and if the price is, it's a little outside of our budget, well, we can bump it down and go to a Formica countertop, and here's the price, and they can see it instantly. They know you're not playing with the numbers, or the price is great, we want to go up to a granite or some other material. You have that flexibility within OneClick to show them a good, better, best option, and you're increasing the probability of getting that sale.
Yep, absolutely. Well, that's just, again, it's we all want to buy from people we trust. And I think when technology can show your trustworthiness, like, you don't have to prove it by telling, I think, company stories. Like, we've all heard enough company stories. I probably too many at this point within this industry to all feel like, you're not gonna tell me the bad things about your company in this company story. It's like, I've interviewed enough people to know that. So, but I think that if you can have the technology like prove that and build the value and build, you can see that in the cart changing.
Yeah.
Makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and anytime we can get rid of the mental picture of, let me go talk to my manager, like when you're buying a car. So if you can manipulate or adjust the bid right in front of them, it's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the question I had for you was just, what are some successful companies doing on on the remote selling, kind of hybrid remote selling, are you, like we talked about, is that still a minority, very much minority of the companies who are selling that way? But can you give us some examples of companies who are doing that successfully, and now even leveraging the interior side of things to even do it better?
Yeah, and I think there's quite a few of our clients, early on and stuff. Again, the bones of OneClick was started out as kind of as remote selling tool to be able to do that. And we actually have quite a few contractors that are predominantly, if not exclusive, remote selling, virtual selling. So, getting and at this point, just starting out with smart interiors, they're kind of still on the exterior side, John. So
Yeah.
they're using Eagle View or they're using Hover or whatever, but usually it's Eagle View because they, either that or they're sending somebody, a technician, to your point earlier, technician to the home to take the pictures for a Hover report. But they figured out how to do that, and it's a little bit different. There's a dynamic, how to interact and connect on screen versus in person.
Yeah.
A little bit more difficult, but you get that down. And these guys have been highly successful and have been doing it for years. Again, and their feedback to us is their customers actually prefer it.
Yeah.
It's a hard thing for all of us that have carried the bag to kind of realize that that's the case, or may feel we're interpersonally better than being on screen. But it's just a learned trait. I think the last 3 years with COVID and everything has helped bridge some of that for people, because we've lived our lives on screen now, and having to interact on conference calls and meetings and things like that. So there's little nuances about making sure you take them through every step, and you have to you have to be a little more animated when you're on screen versus not. When you're in person, you can be a little bit more pragmatic, I guess. But the reality is that these guys have been very successful. So we know that it can be done. We know that there's a group of customers out there that prefer. And in fact, one, two, three, I think 3 people that I've seen that work with us, they now have on their website a button that says schedule an in-home consultation or schedule a virtual appointment. So they give the customer a choice. And I think that's a nice bridge you don't have to go one way or the other, but we would call it omni shopping, if you will. Sell the customer any way they want to buy. So if they want to buy with you in the home and coming in and going through that because they're more comfortable that way, be prepared to keep doing that. But if they're more comfortable doing something virtually, or at least starting out that way, I mean, sooner or later, you're going to have to get into the home.
Yep.
So, virtual sale is not virtual install, but still being able to go through that process with the customer. And if that's what they're more comfortable with, then, why not? Have that ability and have that capability. So we're actually working with one fairly large client that's now working on the virtual sales desk, to where they're going to give the consumer and the homeowner that option, and starting to leverage the different tools that we have, and are actually going to be using smart interiors to do that. So I'm excited to see the results as that goes forward.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's a good point, Sean. The other thing too is if contractors are going to really make it a priority to do more virtual sales, or at least, as Bill is pointing out, offer that. The other thing, and probably should write a blog post about this, Bill, but there's some things you can do from a social media standpoint. Just think of Amazon. Just model your business. If you're going to do virtual selling, have good reviews, and there's a whole process around how you can develop that, how you can showcase it to really help you, because people, if they get off the phone with you, if they haven't already looked at you, they're looking at reviews, and they may have already made the decision to go with you. And all you got to do is just push them that little extra way to show you that you are the person for the job, and it's a done deal. So you should, if you are going to take a look at doing more virtual selling, there's some things you can do to really help yourself win more jobs.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think you had a point, a benefit the other year too, if that is that it increases your coverage area.
Yeah.
It increases all that stuff. But I think to your points as well, I think even we had a webinar on this talking about virtual sales, and a bigger customer of yours that's selling virtually, but it's a hybrid, kind of like that too, is that, I think the idea that everyone's going to want this I think it's not true. People still want somebody, the comfort of having somebody in their house. And if you're open to both options, I think that's the future of what we're like. Landlines still exist. So we, like the number of, people that they still have a landline because they want to keep it for any reason. It doesn't mean that we stop dialing, out on people who have landlines or don't talk to those people anymore or whatever it is. It's, it's like they all can coexist. So I think the future is definitely going to be people wanting more virtual, at least in preliminary estimates, and we have to get used to that. But I think we got to be it's got to be a both. And
Well, if you think about, I was thinking of grocery shopping, right? So I'm one of those guys that I'm going to go in and pick my fruit myself.
yeah,
But there's people that are totally comfortable with having, somebody at the business go through and pick out and select their apples and their oranges and whatever else they're buying that day, and have it ready for them, or have it delivered, or have them just ready for pickup,
yeah,
and do that. So I think you can see just in all facets of our lives how virtual or a blend, a hybrid of that is becoming much more common, and in things that you wouldn't have thought of 10 years ago or 5 years ago that would be that way.
Yeah, that's a great analogy, Bill. We have a couple customers that are doing outdoor structures. There's some things that are kind of like if you're going to order from whoever delivers. My wife does all that stuff, but you can get a box of cereal. It's a box of cereal, but you don't have a ton of choices. But like you said with the fruit, okay, there's some things inside the house that you really have more choices over, and you want to really get it right. But we have customers that are selling certain products that it's going to be added on the outside like a 3-4 season room. It's a standard system. That type of stuff. There's no reason why they can't be selling that virtual all day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're still going to go to the home and do an inspection and just confirm everything before you order materials and things like that. So you're still going to have that in-person connection, but there's no reason why you can't go through the process of providing them a solution with a price that meets their expectations, and then have them be very comfortable with you as a company, and go ahead and get that deal inked before you even go to the home.
Yep.
Yeah, I know we've been talking a lot about virtual selling. If it's not something you're comfortable with, when it comes to smart interiors, you really have a couple different options. You can send them the link and have the homeowner do it. You can go out and do it yourself. I know we've talked to several designers out of KBiz that said, "Oh no, I'm going to do it," because they want to manage that whole relationship from start to finish. I get it. I can see at some point where contractors would have a dedicated person that's all they do is they go out and do these 3D renderings using smart technology. They're affordable to have someone, you're lining them up, and they don't really interact with the homeowner other than getting the measurements. There's a lot of different ways that contractors can use this tool without necessarily doing virtual selling.
Yeah,
Well,
I think that's
even though companies are doing in-home sales, they'll still send somebody out, a runner, to go do those pictures so that it's prepared for a sales rep to go do that. But it's another way to do a tie down, whether you're having the homeowner do it or you're already investing in that one way or another. So
and speaking of designers, real quick, my wife's a kitchen designer and stuff like that, so she's got and she works for a lot of builders in the area, and we live in a rural part, so windshield time is a big concern. And if you think about when you're going to be doing a kitchen redesign or a kitchen design, you have to go build it. And you use one of the 2020 or chief architect or whatever you use to be able to go out, sketch, measure twice, measure 3 times, go back home, build the model, start to put the pieces together, then go meet with the client. If you think about what this can do, if the client's willing to take the pictures for you, give you the data back, you can build the 3D model on your time, walk in with an already drafted 3D model inside the tool, and you can even build a template that you want to use. And then your conversation, again, you've removed that time that's not interactive about measuring and sketching and gathering all the data you need to be able to quote. So I'm actually in the training process right now with my wife to be able to start using this tool in her positions.
yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah.
That's awesome. I would love to I would love to have you guys show us the technology. We'll do a screen share here and just kind of walk through it. I think it'd be amazing. There's a couple questions that a question Rick had. The tool that we're recommending or just talking about here today is called Smart Interiors, and that we'll kind of go through a demo. They're going to show us a demo of that here in a minute. And Larry asked, for a painting contractor, would it work for every interior type measurement, or is it just for a certain type of projects?
No, that's a great question. I'm glad we've got a painter on board, because this tool, this Smart Interiors, is so powerful. If you're a flooring contractor or a painting contractor, and I'll show you that demo first, it's absolutely incredible what you can do and how quickly you can quote and how much time it's going to save you if you can do it that way. So and then also for kitchens and baths and things like that. So really any interior project that you're going to do, we're going to be able to extract measurements for those projects and be able to give you enough to be able to sell off of. And then obviously you want to go measure and confirm everything as you do it. But yeah, for painting, it's just absolute home run.
Yeah, that sounds good. So yeah, I'll let you kind of screen share here.
Okay. Yeah. And just as a setup, Sean, real quick, I know we talked about 2020, but when 2020 happened and we went into lockdown, the first thing that happened is our phone started ringing off the hook. And I was brand new with the company. And so we were talking about all the things that we could do from a remote sale. But for interior contractors, the challenge was, how do I get into the home? I have to get into the home to measure. I have to be able to do that. And so we started thinking about it and saying, well, what could we do to not have to have them get into the home to do it? Now, thank goodness for the industry that we became a essential service, and so everybody could get back into the home within a couple of months and just kept going. But we never stopped thinking about it. So we said,
Yep.
what happens if you can't get in the home, or somebody doesn't want you in their home or whatever? Can you still do this? So we kept looking for the technology, and the one that we selected, there's a ton of good interior measurement technologies out there. They all do pretty much the same thing. This one's a little more flexible, but it also allows, it's so simple that the homeowner can do it for you. So if there is a position where a job is 2 hours away and the customer's willing, man, it's just going to save you so much time and so much money to be able to do something like this. So that was one of the criteria we used to select the technology that feeds into OneClick. Was, is it easy enough that a homeowner could do it for you?
Mm-hmm.
So with that said, I'll take you through that demo where we're actually assuming the homeowner is going to do it for you.
Yep.
And then we can move into the rest of it and answer any questions that come up. So
Yeah,
go ahead and
that's
start
awesome.
sharing my screen if it comes up here. And you have to tell me which ones. Now let me do entire screen here. There we go. Okay. I've not been on this this before. So you guys see my screen now?
Yep.
Okay. So I've logged into OneClick and I've jumped into one of the jobs, and it's of course my name, and I'm just calling it flooring and painting just because that's what's here. We can do kitchens out of this as well. And the first thing you're going to see, OneClick's laid out like it's like a sales process. So gather scope, build and present your solution, and then get it inked and signed. But the first thing we're going to do is jump into measurements, and the technology we're using is Planner. And you just simply click on that button. We're going to import the customer's information from the customer information tab. You simply gave it a project name and then go ahead and hit request. And what that's going to do is send a link to the homeowner that they can open up. There's a really short app they have to download, and then very specific instructions that the homeowner can follow with any smartphone. This is not LiDAR. LiDAR is only iPhones. This is AI. So it's using some of the technology behind LiDAR within the phone, but it's not using LiDAR. So Android or iOS tablets, any tablets on those two devices, is going to work perfect. All right. Homeowner does a few things within 5 minutes, maybe for the first room. They can go ahead and get all the details, all the pictures they need, and then it's just a really short video where I spin around in the middle of the room, just taking the video of the whole room, just to fill in any of the gaps that the pictures don't show. Within seconds, and I mean seconds, what comes back are going to be all the photos from the project organized by the rooms that the customer selected. So the customer is going to be asked to name the room. So it's going to be their name that they've recognized. And then they'll go on, they'll complete that room. They'll add another room. They'll add another room. So if it's a painting or a flooring job, they can add 10 rooms to it. We've not maxed it out. We've had 15 rooms in here before, just kind of playing around with it to be able to say, how broad can we get? And they'll go ahead and create those. And inside those rooms, I'm just going to go up here real quick, are going to be all the pictures that are taken. These are going to be, and as you know, if you're using any kind of measurement technology, you need to define the corners and the exterior space and floor plan for the room, and you just take all the pictures as you go through, and you can take a look at them. So all those pictures are going to come back in almost immediately, so you can start to look at what the job scope is going to look like, what the existing conditions are as you're there. Within 24 hours, right now, minimal or maximum, you're going to get all the information back as far as the measurements and the reports and the 3D model. So if I go back into measurements real quick, and I'm going to go ahead and hit interior, and I'm going to go, so you can see right here, we've imported all the measurements for all the rooms. And within those measurements, what we've extracted have been ceiling measurements, flooring measurements, wall measurements, and then just a general measurements are going to tell you kind of the number of objects that are in the room and the volume count if you're doing anything from like a CFM you want to for HVAC or whatever. I don't know if you'd use this for that, but any of the measurements that we've got here, we've been proofed this out with contractors to make sure that no matter how you want to price the job, we've got the measurement to tie into that line item for that pricing. If you're pricing by square footage, by lineal foot, by eaches, whatever you want, we've got the data to be able to do that and build an estimate for you. I can click in here, right, we'll click with the this is kind of where we start by building, and this is going to take just a minute, it looks like, to gin up here, and I apologize, but it's going to create a 3D model of every room that we can use then to look at and see what we've got. And with that 3D model, we're going to extract all the measurements, and that's going to be the walls, the floors, the ceilings, the object counts, and things like that, and even measurements for the windows and doors and things like that as well. And I apologize, my connection must be a bit slow today. It's usually much faster. So there we go. Okay. So let me go to a room that's a little bit bigger. Let's see. But within this, you can see that we've got a fully active 3D model that we can look at. The blue and orange dots are where you took the picture. So we know exactly where in the room the customer took their pictures. If I want to click on the camera spot here, you're going to notice up here in the corner that the picture is going to change. If I click here, I'm going to get a different picture. Okay. And so very quickly, I can get a measurement of all the rooms, and I can get a 3D model to be able to look at. And that's the information that comes back. Then the other thing that comes back, close that out for a second, within the documents are going to be all the reports. And so we have what's called a pro report, which is going to be everything. It's going to be the drawings, it's going to be the measurements, it's going to be the pictures, everything that you've taken. Let me just open that up real quick. This is like 60 some pages for this project, since we have so many rooms. Okay.
You know, Bill, the nice thing I like about that too is it gives you current conditions. It's, oh, I forgot, does the cabinets go all the way to the ceiling? What is there, you know, bullnose on the base? All
Right.
these things that if somebody, you know, if you have a runner or whoever it's out there and they miss something, you've got a ton of these pictures that you can go back and, oh, that's how it was laid out.
Yeah, exactly. It's always there for reference. So we know in this project, I've got 6 rooms, 46 number of walls that I've taken, 24 doors, number of windows didn't pick up, 5 openings, which would be the windows. And this one happened to have wall to ceiling windows, number of walls, the square footage and totals. And then as I scan down, I'm going to start to get I'm going to get floor plans and labels for all the different measurement sources that I've got. And then as I scan down, I'm going to get into a spreadsheet that's going to have those labels and then all the individual measurements. Now, that's probably enough if you want to take and then be able to build all this yourself and pull it all together. But we do that for you. That's the magic of taking a virtual measurement and putting it into one click, because we take all that information and put it into a measurements format that you can then go right into build an estimate. So this all information comes back, and I'd scroll down, but they've got all the photos, the thumbnails per room, and it's loading those. So there you go. So you can see all the rooms, you can see the conditions that you're dealing with and everything. Okay. So you've got that information, you've got photos, you've got measurements, you've got schematics, floor plans, you've got all these things ready to go. But as a flooring and painting contractor, I was asked for painting, and I'll do that one. Okay. Once we have that in there, I just go right to estimate. I'm going to add an estimate. And this is loading a price list, so it takes a little bit of time since it's a pretty big price list in our demo account. And then once I get that, we have a template function where you can actually take and build templates for the more common applications that you would have. So let's say I've got interior, I'm going to do interior painting, and I just have one example that I'm going to do. And the next thing it's going to ask me, now that I've told it, this is my normal material list or line listing for painting. It's going to be the walls, it's going to be the trim, it's going to be crown molding, it's going to be the ceiling. Is it smooth or is it textured walls? Am I trimming out windows? What's my count? And very quickly, if I'm doing that job, I can say, you know what, they're going to want a specific painting job done in these 4 rooms. I'm going to go ahead and click on add template. And just that quickly, now I've priced out all of these rooms. And you can see that I've added them up here. And these sequentially, they're going to be listed here with all the components that I would normally sell on a painting job, specified out by the count that we've got, and that come through has come through the system. The next one is the next bedroom and everything else. Okay. So if the customer says, you know what, I want to do the other rooms, but I want to do something different, and it's going to be a different pricing, and assume this is just a different template. And now it's the great room and the kitchen. And I now want to just see that as one group. I click on the bottom here. I add the template. I'm going to merge the estimates. And then just that quickly now, I still have the individuals, but now I've got everything down here. I've got the great room and kitchen listed as a separate item and totaled together. So just that quickly, I've produced an estimate that's going to be very accurate for a painter, and technically not even having to go to the home. But if you wanted to, you could stage this ahead of time, go to the home, get the details from the customer, what they're looking for, choose the appropriate template, associate the rooms to that specific template, and go ahead and price that job out almost instantaneously. Okay. So that's the real value when you talk about taking it from a measurement tool into a digital selling platform like OneClick, is just the speed at which everything is connected digitally and allows you to go from, I mean, from the customer's perspective, think about it. If this is done ahead of time and you walk into the home and you're now just picking out colors and everything, it's a matter of just now click, 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 and I now have an estimate. That's just so that time we were talking about where you're just downtime trying to produce and trying to keep them occupied in attention. I don't have to worry about that anymore. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well, I just imagine in this scenario here too, what I love about even the interface here that you guys have, is like you could walk a customer through exactly what you're doing with us right now. Versus other estimating tools, there's, you don't want them to see everything in the background, so you give them more of a formalized view of everything. And there's just so much power in that, again, transparency, that you're not sitting there trying to, fudge the numbers behind the scenes. And I think that's an expectation or a potential, fear that people have, is that you're just pricing it different because of the house that you're in, or the, the type of, what you picked up on, that we'd be able to afford it and they wouldn't, but I think that's a huge.
And I think the beauty about OneClick too is we allow you, the contractor, to decide how much you want to show the customer from a quantity or a pricing perspective. If all you want to do is talk about the scope of the project, I'm going to paint your walls, I'm going to paint your baseboards, I'm going to paint your crown molding, I'm going to go ahead and do this, 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 and X, I'm going to stain your doors, whatever it may be that you decide to do, you can say that I'm not even going to give you the square footage I'm going to paint. You can hide that. You can definitely hide the cost, so that basically you're focused on what's the work going to be? How much am I going to, rather than even talking about that till you get to the very bottom. That's probably the vast majority of our contractors kind of take that away and just talk about the scope of the work I'm going to do, and then get to a price for that. Real quick, Sean, I wanted to show this one too, because this is a little bit different. We have two different reports. So the first one I showed you was for flooring and painting. And the difference is it's still a 3D model. So you get all the walls and the ceilings and everything, but it doesn't capture any of the objects in the room. So you notice there was no bath vanity, there's no cabinets and everything. They were gone. So that itself is a little bit less expensive of a report. So if you're doing multiple rooms, it does become affordable that a painter or a flooring contractor could use that product. This one would be specific for kitchen and bath, where this is a kitchen. I've got it here. And the beauty about this, I can go ahead and close that down. If I want to know what the island is, I click on the island and it's going to give me the measurements. I know that it's 5'4" width, height is 2 foot, depth is 3 foot 8 inches, just that quickly. Now, I have a measurement tab. If I scroll down to that pro report, I can see what those measurements are specifically and exactly what those are for that. But every object now is going to be measured inside the room and also detailed out. So for a kitchen or a bath contractor, this is a little more expensive report because it requires a little bit more human intervention right now to make sure everything ties out appropriately. Over time, as we know with AI, it hopefully gets smarter and smarter and smarter. The time to get the report back is going to go down, and the quality of the report, and less human, which we also expect that hopefully by that time we'll be able to see some, maybe more effective processes to be able to not necessarily do it in the home. I mean, I'd love to see this generate itself in a matter of minutes, so we could actually use it in the home when we walked in the front door. So. But that's what's coming. So, but this would be great for a kitchen or a bath contractor, where you've got all the details out of all the objects that are there today. If it's simply a lift and reset, as I call, for somebody likes their kitchen layout, they just, the kitchen cabinets are old and they want to refresh something, this is a very easy thing to do.
Yeah, I think for cabinet, just like you had mentioned as an example, the cabinet refacers, kitchen refacing is a huge industry, and this gives you everything you need to know right here. Or again, when you're not moving walls, this is you can get an accurate estimate and build a model on, before walking in the door.
Hey, Sean, I should add too, Bill, that your homeowner has access to this portal that's unique for them, and for them to be able to, print it out, and, just, it's that much more there. You're getting them engaged to draw out how I want to do layouts. And there's just so many other things that they're going to get from it.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That's pretty much it on that. Just on that, it's a 5-minute view. If anybody would like to get a deeper view, we can definitely set up a demo and take them through a few more of the nuts and bolts and everything. But by the time you get set up with OneClick and smart interiors, the reality is you're going to be able to sell totally virtually, or you can definitely do a setup before you get to the home with these measurements and have your price list already interconnected with those measurements, so that just very quickly you can produce an estimate in the home without having to spend much more than a few clicks.
Well, I think one thing that I think is interesting, I think that is not, again, from an Eagle View and a hover perspective, you're still taking that information and having to, plug it into an estimating tool. If you're not integrated into an estimator right now, it's still copy pasting and some manual effort. And this is all kind of built into that stuff and building that line items for you based on that data. Out of curiosity, one question I think I specifically had is just how, just like we talked about with Eagle View and with Hover, and even with Hover, a lot of companies will still sit there and do a double check of measurements before ordering material, and with Eagle View. And so how accuracy have you kind of gotten from a response here so far from an estimating versus a measure, like especially when interiors are so down to the inch, even more so than roofing's got a lot more leeway than windows do, and siding you can always get more material but this interiors are very, very measured.
Very exact. Yes. So I think when it comes to painting and flooring, since again, they're going to be much more like roofing, where I'm buying in bulk and then just fitting and applying in the home, the measurements are plenty accurate. Okay. When it comes to kitchens and baths, yes, there's going to be a little bit of a variance. And so right now it's amazing. If you're on an iPhone, like a 10, an X or an XR, something like that, you're probably going to be plus or minus 3%. Again, depending on what you're trying to accomplish on the pre-qualification call or accomplish on a virtual sale, it's plenty good enough if you set the right expectation with the homeowner. Hey, if this makes sense, this is what it's going to be. I'm going to come in, I'm going to pull a tape. We may have to adjust a cabinet size, go from a 21 to a 24, or 24 to a 21. I might have to add a 2-inch filler here if something's off a little bit, but it's still, if you set the right expectation, it's really easy to do. You can go ahead and make this happen. The funny part is now when you go and to an XR14, I just finally upgraded from a 10, believe it or not. I get my technology and I stick with it for a while, but the 14 Pros are within a half a percent.
Wow.
So the more modern the tech is that the homeowner is using, the more accurate the measurements are going to be. And then just think about that in the next couple of years, it's going to continue to dial in and dial in. So yes, it's going to have a little variance in it. I will say, as an example, back in my days, we were selling roofing. We were over $100 million roofer, and we were starting to sell virtually 12 years ago, 10 years ago, and we had nothing but Eagle View reports that we'd send to the homeowner, and then we'd get them on the phone and do a screen share and then go through all the details and try to sell it to them. All we do is set the expectations. Hey, when we get out to the home, if we find more than 2 layers, it's going to be an extra charge. If we find rotted decking, we're going to have to replace it, but it's going to be $85 a sheet. If you set the expectation that there's going to be some minor adjustments when you get there based on the physical inspection, most everybody is perfectly fine with that if they know what to expect before you walk in the door. What you want to avoid is the surprise to say, now that I'm here, I'm going to take the price up, because that all too often happens with the more unscrupulous contractors in the market. The technology gives you that level of professionalism, and then just that setting that expectation that here are the areas that could be adjusted once we get there for a final measure, then you shouldn't have any problem.
Yeah, absolutely. So one question came in here just about, can it be used in an attic?
I don't know why not. I'd have to think about that. It depends on the attic. Look, if it's a 312, I'll say no. If it's a 1212 or it's you got more space to be able to walk around, yeah. I mean, we even talked at KBIS where we launched this with the tech company, and they were saying now with the iPhone 14s, you could probably even do a convention center. So size isn't a matter, but it's going to be your ability to really extract the correct photos so they can get the perimeter and be able to build the model. I would think, again, if the attic has got enough pitch into it where you can stand up and you can walk around a little bit, you can probably get enough to be able to do that. Now, it does pick up pitch a little bit too, so it can happen. But
Yeah, I
It'd be
imagine
interesting.
if they're talking about a finished like a half story or anything that's 5 foot or
Yeah.
below for the outside wall, that I think it would be fine, Bill.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It would be. Yeah. In fact, the room I'm in now, you can see I'm in a above my garage. Would have been an attic, but we turned it into a bonus room, and it's my office now. But yeah, we got the half walls, and then the pitched walls going up to the ceiling. So,
Mhm. And then
and it, by the way, it picked this up fine.
about baseboards, crown molding, chair railing, different styles, and all that stuff around windows. Is that stuff that can be picked up and measured?
Yeah, we're going to measure all of the crown, all of the baseboards and stuff like that. The windows do get measured. It depends on how you want to price. If you want to price window trim as a linear foot, and then you can build into your model. Let's say if it's a simple 2.25, trim on the window, or if it's more of a 4 inch, detailed with like corner blocks and stuff like that, you may have a different price. You can build all those individual nuances into your price model. You may have to go back into that estimate then and go ahead and select that item, and we can create drop downs where if you said window trim, you could go in and you could have 10 or 15 different variations that are already priced based on the count, and go ahead and select that item with that particular molding if it's more expensive, or however you want to designate your pricing structure. And we can accommodate that in one click and make it very easy to go ahead and make those changes.
But it's already a line item with the planner
Yes.
measurement. And
Yes.
so you're just plugging the line item into what you're
Right.
calling it at that.
Into the estimate. We're grabbing the measurement and pulling that information in. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Which
Yeah,
is
Sean,
the time
you think, sorry, Sean, you think about, there's a couple companies, Arturo, Zesty, even Eagleview, they're trying to do the AI on facet identification for the roof, and they're struggling with it just simply because, as Bill said, the technology of these things, that's why you're capable of getting all those details. And if a contractor gets the newest version of the technology and goes out and does this, assuming the homeowner doesn't have the newest one, you'd be amazed at the quality that you can get. Just as a side note, I'm a big techie film guy. There's people shooting full feature films on these things. So you'd be amazed at what these things can do. And I think that's what the interior is probably going to blow past what the exterior measurement companies are capable of doing, because they're either satellite or a plane. So I think you're going to be surprised at how amazing it gets better and better every year.
Well, just like you said, I think the industry will build on itself, but I think the phone industry is it's constantly improving, just like satellites have improved and the photos from planes have improved. This is actually helping by the homeowners technology is improving even faster at a faster rate. So
Absolutely.
One other question we had in here, and we'll kind of end with this question. If you have additional questions, please keep them coming, but we'll email them out. But Larry just asked, how does this compare to other software like Estimate Rocket?
Familiar with Estimate Rocket, not as familiar as I'd want to be, but I think it's going to be very. I mean, look, the way I describe One Click and Smart Interiors is a component of One Click. The way I describe One Click is that we're a digital briefcase for the home improvement salesperson, right? So anything and everything that you would want to do in a home besides carrying your samples in will be contained or linked out and into One Click as you go forward. So yeah, probably very similar. We build your price list, we build your contract inside one, we put your documents, we put your presentations, everything. We're just a shell that you fill with all of your data that you would normally carry in a briefcase or a backpack into the home and use. We're going to basically digitize all that into One Click. Okay, so it's all going to be there. It's how you design it, how you want it to work. And then we basically set it up for you, and then we coach and train you how to and make sure your people know how to use it.
Yeah, and we should point out too that if you're using a CRM, a Market Sharp or a Job Nimbus or Improve It 360, any of those, this is really supplementing those. This is kind of the beginning of your tech stack to lead generation, estimating, contract writing, all that stuff, and then it'll just feed in. We integrate with a lot of CRMs. So, yeah,
absolutely. No, this has been great. I so appreciate it. It's so fun to explore new technology. I hope you guys are, everyone who's listening today has gotten something out of it and just kind of seen something new. I think this is, I think we're at the forefront of just where this technology is going. Again, there's so many benefits to be able to to adopt new technology just as a differentiator within sales, within marketing. And I think the costs are, that was a question that came up here. We won't go into that today, but I think we'll obviously give you guys a call if they want to reach out and ask cost stuff. But I think the costs will always, the benefits will always outweigh the costs in adopting new technology here. And it's about learning how to do it, the best way to integrate it into your business. But I think the biggest thing companies struggle with in this space is differentiation from the other companies and the other big players in the space. And I think you can very easily use technology to continue to disrupt and stay ahead of the game, because ultimately it's either you do it or your competitor will, and now you're playing catch up. So
yeah, and it's funny. I think back, Bill, when we were playing the game, it was like I never had time to save time. So you can either do it because your competitor's doing it, or invest the time. And to bring on a tool like OneClick. When I came on board, I'll tell you that the staff in OneClick, they're an extension of your company. We'll help you every step of the way, but you take the time to at least reach out if you have questions, and we'll give you our best advice on tech stacks, things like that. But yeah, make the time to save time.
Yeah, 100%. So how can we, I appreciate your time here, guys, to be able to sit with us and for you to pick your brain and ask you questions. How can people reach out to you? How can they learn more about OneClick, or even reach out to you guys individually if they have questions?
Can always go to the website, oneclickcontractor.com, and go ahead, and we have right on there, you can schedule a demo. When we have phone numbers you can call. And so we're available pretty much anytime. I mean, we're here to basically serve and help contractors be more successful.
Thank you again, Bill and Guy, for jumping on here. And
thanks for the time.
Yeah, blessing with your presence here. But I hope you guys all have a great rest of the day.